I want to talk a few moments about the significance of Juneteenth and what it means um, in reference to where we are now. We have heard um, a lot, I'm sure, since Wednesday, especially about the bill that was passed commemorating Juneteenth as the holiday for the freedom of African enslaved people in this country. I do believe that it is extremely significant because of the way it was passed, but I don't think it was passed for that reason to be of significance to us. What I mean by that is this. I think that it was passed in order to take our eyes off of the need for to protect voters' rights. However, I do think it was significant in that it gives us an opportunity to celebrate ourselves and not only the freedoms that we have from the physical shackles of slavery, but also gives us an opportunity to celebrate um, with ourselves a portion of our culture. Now, the significance of that today is that we are in a position now, um, excuse me, we're in a position now um, to see a move in a very positive direction for us and our people. What I mean by that is this: the whole, and if you hear noise, it's because I have to help set up some people that didn't show up. Okay, um, the whole idea of the celebration gives us an opportunity to see more clearly our future, and in seeing our future, it gives us an opportunity to become one with each other. The most important thing is that this bill was signed into law to take effect immediately. Yeah. Hi. 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 Where's Curtis at? Good. How are you? Hey. Where's Curtis at? Okay. 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 I'm back. I'm sorry, y'all. The person I'm looking for is at the other slot. Anyway, the whole idea of this thing is to make sure that we embrace the reality of the second day for a national holiday for African Americans was signed into law on Wednesday. The last federal holiday that was signed into law was in 1983, and that was Martin Luther King. So what we got was a law that was signed signed to make a federal holiday for Martin Luther King, a leader in the movement, and an individual person whose life was as a result of being in the movement. However, I think it's also significant that this particular law dealt not just with the civil rights, but it dealt with freedom. And it speaks to the whole concept of what this freedom means. And we are the ones who have to take the bull by the horn and make sure that these freedoms become what they are supposed to be. And I'm not talking about these freedoms just in terms of the legal governmental terms of freedom. I'm talking about knowing the truth and the truth will make you free, that kind of freedom. This propelled the Africa to the forefront of bringing this nation, bringing this earth to a place of democratic rule, meaning that a place where equality becomes the norm, a place where race is not a factor in anything. A place where we can, for the first time in human history, begin to see everyone being dealt with on a parity, meaning everyone interacted on this on a level playing field without the the injection of the color of the skin, without injecting the concept of inferiority versus superiority, those kinds of things. In that regard, I feel like we are experiencing major change from what we had experienced in the past. This is significantly different than the Martin Luther King Day, and the thing that makes it significantly different is that it entails or involves slavery for the first time. It speaks to a nation that is saying that it does not have shackles on it anymore. It is more of an acknowledgement. Now, do I think that this bill was signed or passed for this purpose? No, I don't. I think it was done, as I said earlier, to take our eyes off of the voter registration issues that we are facing. Are there any questions or are there any comments about this? And I understand I'm Russian, but I did want to at least share those things with you.
Yeah, this is Nick.
Go ahead.
I just want to say I agree. It seemed very unexpected, but yeah, in a way that it diverted attention from other things that were more fundamental in some ways. But not that it's unwelcome. But I just thought it was very interesting. They seem to skip over things that we would consider more structurally important and sort of give us things that are in some ways symbolic and in some ways significant, not in ways they understand, but still not focus on those things that would secure a more lasting stability, like voter registration and voter rights. Still waiting for them to make voting, the day of voting, a holiday. And I would wonder why they did this before they would do that.
Good point.
But I'll take it. I mean, it is just, I believe, as you just mentioned, a symbol of the kinds of subtle changes that are happening, I think, that are sort of indicating that we are on the correct path, even though if there's still resistance to that path.
Anyone else?
Go ahead, somebody who's going to speak.
Good morning. This is Audrey. I agree. I think in this case, though, whereas the MLK Day was honoring a man, this honoring freedom is, and I don't think they, as Nick said, I don't think they realized what they were doing, because the fact that it's a holiday honoring the freedom of African Americans finally.
I think it smacks. This is Barbara. I think it smacks of what we
we felt when we said that the flag in South Carolina was going to come down. That behind that actuality was something much more momentous from a spiritual perspective, and this speaks to the same thing. It's like, well, let's make the black folk happy and give them a holiday, and that's what's the thinking, and give them this holiday. And because even Ron Johnson, who did not vote for it last time, voted for it this time, and so they think it's an appeasement for the black folk, but they have no idea the momentous spiritual underpinning behind this. Hello? Are we still connected?
Yeah, can you still hear me?
Yeah, can hear you now.
What's going on?
I don't know. I think some people
I
are.
can hear you, Audrey.
I think some people are dropping off and coming back on, or have weaker connections. It's okay. We'll wait till they get back on. But like I was saying, I think the somewhat symbolic act on the behalf of the Biden administration to sort of give Black people this, so to speak, is very much indicative of the fact that we're on the correct path. And actually, I think it doesn't matter too much, but I think Biden personally is, he thinks it's fine. Like, I don't think he's consciously doing this as like as dangling a carrot in front of people's faces in order to lead them away from something else. Or at least that's not his main intention, I don't believe. But like I said, not that that matters too much. The reality of what's going on, I think, is that we're being shown these sort of hints of the sort of light at the end of the tunnel that we have been moving through for most of what we remember of as history. And that is the sort of reintegration of the collective human spirit, and the way that reintegration of spirit supersedes all of these, or all of the sort of meaningless political and social red tape and procedure and sort of incremental mentalities that we are surrounded with. None of that stuff matters. We can do all of the things we feel that need to be done now. We don't have to go through these unnecessary steps if the steps just get in the way of accomplishing what we all know needs to be accomplished. So
Okay.
I just think it's very interesting that we're seeing things like this. For everyone who said that Donald Trump was the sort of anti-establishment candidate, in many ways he was, but I really think that Biden and what he represents is very much establishment, but it is the establishment adapting to the pressure that's being put on it to change and change quickly. And I think Biden is sort of representative of the fact that the energy that resists the necessary change that we desire is just in many ways too old and sort of too not with it to oppose that change. They don't have the energy anymore to do that kind of stuff. They have a pattern that they know how to follow, and because we are pushing for change and evolution that falls outside of that pattern, they end up giving us things that they don't realize how significant they are. Symbolically significant, but also in terms of the way it will change people's lives, significant. So one of the things that Biden also just did, or the administration just did, was cancel a bunch of student debt. And while this is very much a sort of outwardly political and social act, it's also indicative of the sort of pushback against the corporate hold on people's ability to be at peace. It is a sort of pushback against those forces that are that desire to keep us in a state of the survival mindset. And it's not enough, but it is, just as the sort of making Juneteenth the holiday, it is that sort of first indicator that we are on the correct path, and that the sort of positive path is having an effect in some real ways on sort of quote negative forces that believe themselves in control of all things throughout all time. And I think we'll continue to see these sorts of somewhat unexpected shifts like this. And I think momentum will keep building to make those shifts more substantial rather than sort of symbolic or otherwise small in the case of the Juneteenth holiday. And then the eliminating some of the student debt. And not that those are not significant things, but in terms of what they represent, they are symbolic of sort of greater change that we are pushing for, and we will get. Is everyone, we might still be missing some people who fell off the line, but that's okay.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear us?
Yeah. Now,
Oh, okay. Yeah, you
is
can go
there,
ahead.
I missed something. No. I just want to see if there are any other observations.
Pass this, Ron.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just listening to Nick, and he was just talking about other things that that are changes that are taking place, and this didn't do with the Juneteenth. But I've been reading some things on the Southern Baptists, and they've had a lot of turmoil, I guess you'd say. People not supporting the old regimen of how things have gone, and people leaving and splintering off and doing what they, other things and that sort of thing. And they just finished up their convention, and they elected as a president someone who has a history of racial reform and, taking care, handling sexual abuse cases in the church for women and supporting women's rights. And I thought, no matter, as had been said, no matter what the reason for them supporting him or voting for this man, I just think that's significant. The ironic part is he was, what do you call it when you, the suggestion came, for lack of a better word, was from a black delegate, and he was elected their president. So I just thought, haven't read a lot about him yet, but I just thought that was significant because it's something different in their history. They're at a place they've been doing something they haven't done before, and I just thought I'd point that out.
Mm-hmm. That was that people in the church.
Ron, to your point, I think that is an indication of the deeper change amongst the general populace in general, in terms of what, how should I say this? In a sense, as a collective, in terms of leadership and those people who we deem as being empowered, from a deeper standpoint, we actually relinquish a certain consent to allow things to take place. And so the shift that you actually see is a deeper shift in the, I don't want to say mindset, but what this general populace, in terms of the congregation, the general congregation of the Southern Baptists, in terms of where they are in their growth and what it is that they have said is okay internally and what they have said is not okay. And though that leadership can only go as far as what they're permitted to do so by its population. And I think that's what you explained is an indication of that taking place.
Yeah, I agree. I'll stay tuned and kind of see where this goes, but I do think it's something significant, and I see, as maybe we'll get into later, either today or tomorrow, the role that we have played in that, and what to look for next.
And just to add to that, just to explain what I'm trying to say a little bit more for those who may not understand it, I didn't do a great job. Any regimen, country, and things of that nature, they have to do one of two things in order to, in a sense, have permission by the general population to do whatever it is that they want to do. It has to either come by force, or it has to come by coercion and persuasion, whether the general population knows that they're being persuaded or not, to give their consent in doing something. So, for example, going to war with another country and perhaps doing something that looks like an atrocity, have the general population to believe that this is something that must be done and that they will get behind it and they support it. And so as this relates to the Southern Baptists, there are certain things that for a long time have been allowed to continue, or the general population that said was okay. And this definitely deals with things, especially with the Southern Baptists, like race relations and things like that. And now the general population is saying this is not acceptable. I cannot align myself with this. This doesn't align with the deeper parts of myself. And therefore, that's why the leadership is having to change. That's why the leadership doesn't have a whole grasp as it once did.
I agree, Sheldon. And that's the significance of it, though, is the two topics or the two things that I mentioned that this man is known for. The general population has never challenged leadership on. You see what I mean? That speaks volumes to me. How people in situations of race relations sit on their hands, and you know that something is not right, but it does not affect you in a personal way, so it's not something you challenge. And most of this is my opinion here, but most of those people that we are talking about make decisions based on financial gain. So the surprising thing here is there is no financial gain for them to make this decision. There's nothing to gain from this but doing what is right. And I guess that's what kind of surprises me. But I agree with you.
Well, I think they have something to politically gain from it. They'll gain favor from people, but at the same time not sort of address those more fundamental things that we need that would help us with the more long-term stability. So in some sense, they're giving us something, but avoiding the sort of political work that are required to do those other things. But like I said, hey, we'll take it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I'll just keep fighting to the end. But we're going to get everything we want. And hopefully we'll do it relatively soon, because one thing Americans don't like is having things taken away. Like, you can make Juneteenth a holiday, and that's great. Don't be the candidate that says, I'm going to take away one of your holidays. You need to do that with other stuff.
Good morning. Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
I had a thought in hearing about the Southern Baptist and seeing, even though it may not be a financial gain, I thought about grandchildren and the intermarriages and how that will change your perspective. Because as a grandma myself, I love my grandchildren, and I'm wondering how much of an impact that is. Thank you.
That's a major impact. It's very difficult to reference your grandchildren with the N-word. Plus, it is a spiritual manifestation of what it means by the browning of America. That's how I see it. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would just add to that when we talk about
And I'm
being
gone,
part,
guys.
when we talk about love, and we talk about being part of the whole and being one, etc. Essentially, what we're talking about is we're talking about an expansion of awareness and identity beyond that of our individual selves. And so, as far as the grandkids are concerned, and as we grow, period, we have opportunities to walk into that. And so, even with Pastor Richard mentioning the browning of America and things like that, with this connection of seeing something that you once saw yourself as being distanced from and seeing yourself as being a part of, it is more difficult to see yourself as being separate, or to see yourself as hating that particular thing. It is the same thing that happens with a lot of marginalized groups. once someone on the supposed in group starts to interact with them and they start to recognize basically the divinity in that person, then their attitudes towards them and their heart towards them begins to open up and begins to change. And these opportunities are plentiful, but it is definitely present, I believe, in that of becoming a grandparent. When you think about a relationship with a significant other, that is something that you are in control of in terms of determining what your offspring is, et cetera. When it comes to grandchildren, this is still your offspring, but you do not have direct say so in what that looks like. So you are suddenly being forced, or you have to, whether you like it or not, to have exposure or experience that particular thing, which is, like I said, is another form or opportunity for self-awareness, growth, and an expansion of love. I'm finished.
You know, I listened to what you said, Sheldon, and what Nick and Pastor said. I guess it's the first time I've ever thought of the concept of the browning of America being spiritual and affecting hearts and minds more so of seeing and respecting and loving in a way that does not divide based on race and other biases. I've always thought of it as a physical thing that you are forced to live this way or do this, and maybe that's the catalyst that gets it all going. But it reaches a point where it is a volunteer thing to love and respect and treat each other as someone who's equal. And maybe that's what we're starting to see, or at least maybe it's taking root right before our eyes.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the last and the biggest sort of resistance to that is going to be sort of these sort of traditional monetized form of religion that is dominant in the United States. Because I already hear all those Trump supporters and right-wing people starting to say things like they're eventually going to come after Jesus. We will see the biggest resistance when that starts getting called out for what it is. And of course, it's not coming after Jesus, it's coming after them and their hypocrisy. But that has become so conflated, it's become so intertwined with their understanding of how the world works. Christianity is meant to dominate, and white men in particular are supposed to be at the top of Christianity. As soon as that gets called out on the sort of national scale that it should be, we're going to see a huge amount of resistance.
Did Pastor leave? I thought I heard him saying he had to go. Are you still there, Pastor?
Yeah, I'm getting off now, though. I got you. I actually thought I was going to drop the call and I was on my way back home, and I didn't.
Uh-huh.
But I got to get off so I can finish things up. When things change, I'll talk with you, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Have a good day. Are there any other questions or comments along these lines, Juneteenth or anything else, I guess?
Well, good morning, everyone. How everyone doing? As it relates to the Juneteenth day, if it is recognized as a federal holiday or just a holiday, we are still obligated to have some kind of appreciation for it. So if we look at Biden, if Biden is passing this holiday along with this, well, just Biden, if Biden is passing this holiday based on political bartering, I owe this group of people and this is what they wanted. Or if he's making this decision by himself, look, we're going to recognize this day. The energy of it may be different. If he is doing it by way of political bartering, or if he is doing it because he is forced to do it, it may be plausible to see it as he may be pandering to African Americans. So, like I say, if Juneteenth is recognized as a federal holiday or a holiday, I'm obligated to maneuver in life differently, not just Juneteenth Day, in December. Help someone to help myself. If you look at it from a P&L standpoint or profit and loss, when you go in East Harlem or Spanish Harlem, being that they keep their language, that's why it's called Spanish Harlem. Every fifth Sunday or every last Sunday of the month, they always recognize, these are their terms, they recognize it as Old Timers Day, where they give respect to the great-grandmothers and the grandmothers. When you look at Cinco de Mayo, if I'm pronouncing it right, I celebrate that because they celebrate it. It's not a holiday. It's not a national holiday, but they celebrate it. Restaurants celebrate it. Stores celebrate it because they celebrate it. So if we want Juneteenth to have its impact, what are you doing for it? So, my suggestion is that come next year, God's willing, everyone's here, that we are festive in it by way of food, by way of dialogue, and to the people who really know about Juneteenth. Give us an hour seminar of what it really means and how we ought to conduct ourselves. History class ain't gonna tell you nothing about Juneteenth.
Can I say this though?
Yeah, I'm done. Go ahead, boss.
Well, what I want to say is I agree. I don't know if you heard what Nick said earlier. Regardless of Congress or the president's agenda and reason behind it, what do we see it as, and what do you want it to be? And when Pastor talked about it being true freedom, see, that freedom, as far as I'm concerned, that energy is universal. That energy is spiritual. And Juneteenth, to me, hopefully, in us recognizing who we are, that becomes an everyday event. So it's not that we're gonna. It's awesome to commemorate the day on this day every year, but the freedom that it affords us, the spiritual significance of that, and what doors that open is far more important than just having this one day. So I hear what you're saying, and I agree. I also see it as a more expansive thing that is available that I didn't even see until today when we got to talking about this.
For Mayron, how I look at it kind of is us determining what it is and saying that those who are not aware of what they're doing or that may be pandering are not qualified to actually determine what ultimately comes and what the freedom represents and things like that.
I agree. And I'm not even sure those groups have the ability to see it from a spiritual perspective. And that to me is the awesome part of this. And you know, as we discuss it, I think it becomes bigger than just, you know, just seeing and the surprise and the shock and the joy that we felt on Wednesday. It becomes bigger when you really understand what it means and what that freedom feels like. Anyone else, questions or comments?
I did have one other comment as you were just saying it. I was thinking about it further. I don't know how greatly, excuse me, that this aligns with this as analogy. But one thing I'm thinking about in terms of Juneteenth and the different times of the year that freedom is celebrated by the Black community is that of food and the history of food in this country, and how, of course, making a delicacy out of parts of the animal and plants and things like that that were discarded and not wanted, and taking what and even cooking, you know, for those individuals who were not, in a sense, going back to qualified, did not know how to take something and make greatness out of it. And it was because they were not qualified and not know that. It's like, here, take these scraps, take these leftovers. And then from that, the African was able to make something great, something that now that is viewed as delicacies, things that are viewed as an art. And so that's what I mean by those who may have used this as pandering, being performative, etc. Do not, just because they may not know what lies before them, that doesn't mean that they also get to determine what happens, what is the result of what lies before them as well. I'm finished.
That to me, Sheldon, and maybe somebody else can expand on it as well, is an awesome analogy of being able to take something that is discarded, something that does not appear to be useful, and make it into something that can not only be useful but be nourishing and good for you. You use it as food, but I think of it in a spiritual sense, and I even think of it in the perspective that we view the scriptures, being able to take things out of it that some may not see value in, and making it into something valuable to mankind. I think that kind of sums up a lot of things that we've discussed here lately.
Yeah, I agree. And the whole So the way the books were constructed was to sort of keep out as much information as possible, but we still managed to find it.
Yes, yes.
Well, one thing I just thought about is just the impact on someone. Let's say the average Black person, and let's say just using this as a hypothetical, general speaking. Let's think a lot of stuff that we talk about on here from a spiritual standpoint. There are also a lot of people who don't understand it consciously, even though it's a part of it. And so they don't, let's say there's like, oh, there's just this little small holiday that is recognizing the freedom of Black people. Now, let's think about how just hearing that period, what that may do for just any Black person, and now all of a sudden buying into, okay, the government just said that I'm free, so I'm free now. It changes their mindset. It changes how they walk. It changes how they operate, how they maneuver, etc. Look at the impact that that automatically has, regardless of the intent of what it was from a political or boundary standpoint. How does that change that individual wholly? And what impact does it have on them going forward? And that's a rhetorical question, but I'm just talking about the hidden impacts that lie below the surface. You know, a simple effect of what one of the things that lies below the surface that is not easily recognizable. And I'm
Well, I'm not. I'm not sure if this is what you meant, but this is what one of the things I've gotten out of your that statement is one of the things I've been waiting on, and in this last couple of years we've seen things being revealed and the turmoil, and we've taken notice to a lot of it, or most of it, but I've also waiting to see us as a race recognize who we are and be proud of who you are. And I listened to my nephew talking with him and his understanding of what it means to be a Black man, and not necessarily showing or feeling proud about that. And, you know, you turn on the television and the shootings and the whatever, just the violence. And if Juneteenth can help in any way in that regard, that would be awesome to me. It opens up history. It talks about culture. It talks about pride. It talks about freedom. And just maybe, you know, as you're saying, and you know, maybe this is one of the underlining things that will take place with this, you know, as this holiday grows, as the knowledge of it grows and the love for it grows. So will our love and respect and pride in each other grow. At least that's my hope.
No, that's some of exactly what I was talking about. Just in terms of, say, when we've seen this with even with little kids as well, and determining on how they're treated and what is expected of them, they act accordingly. Also because they begin to believe that thing that is being projected on them as they're trying to find themselves, in a sense. So what I'm saying about the terms of from not quite sure how to say this, to that person that is not extremely spiritually inclined, just the notion itself from a subconscious level, accepting that I am free, that one little small thing bursts a whole a whole greatness within. In terms of opening up a deepness and a greatness and a divinity within oneself. That's what I'm trying to say. Even on a personal level, the effect that this can have on an individual is quite monumental.
Okay, yeah. I agree with you.
For a very long time, this country has actually really failed. It might hint at it or try to suggest that the African was free, etc., but not to this extent was it said this clearly, regardless of if it believed it or not.
Yeah, I agree with you. Anyone else, questions or comments?
This is Vermel. I have a question. In regards to what you and what has been laid out previously, is this also a catalyst for more awareness coming into the earth of who we are?
Yes, automatically, it is that, because with who and what we are, in terms of the Africans' history in this country, I'm not at all trying to blame the African at all, but a part of the loss in the closeness to the Creator has been based upon starting to believe and being convinced that the African was less than. And automatically, to tie this down, what we've been talking about for months, the idea of sin is an entanglement. An entanglement is to see yourself as less than what you are. So the idea, if you will, of believing and abiding to being a second-hand citizen and all of these other things, is an effect to become entangled, is an effect to see oneself as not as it actually is, to be separate from the Creator, to not be worthy, etc. So automatically the idea of, in a sense, this is some entanglement that is allowed to immediately happen within people to just say, I am. Not necessarily even say it in words, but actually to believe that I am. And that in itself automatically has an effect of growth and awareness. Did that help to answer your question, Ms. Vermeer?
Yes, it did. It did very much so. Thank you.
Good question. Anyone else? We've been on the line about an hour. I mean, if you guys want to call it a day and pick up tomorrow, that's fine. Pastor called me a few minutes before we went on the line and asked me, told me he would not be on to kind of keep things going. And I did look at some scripture I don't quite see yet, and I told him about it yesterday when we talked. But if you think this is enough, and if you don't have any other discussions about this, do you want to go into some scriptures, or do you want to call it a day until tomorrow? Anyone?
Ron, this is Barbara. So we are meeting on Father's Day.
You know what? That's a good point. Yeah, I had not thought about that, Barbara. I did not ask him about that. We usually don't on holidays, do we?
No, we don't, or we just ask the question to clarify one way or the other.
I think, Ron, that someone asked if we were meeting on Mother's Day, and he told them yes, we were, and I would feel like he would still expect us to meet on Father's Day.
Okay. Okay. Is that all right with everybody? You guys okay? So we will meet tomorrow?
Yes, I see people nodding.
That's fine.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, we've gone about an hour then. I guess we could cut off at this point and pick it up tomorrow. Is that okay, or do you want to continue? Hey guys, if you have questions or comments, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. If you want to go in a different direction, you know how it rolls. We'll talk about whatever. Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you.
Well, I take that
Thank
to
you.
be quick.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
everyone.
Have a good Juneteenth.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Sheldon.
Thank you. Thank y'all.